Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another vlog that I wish to turn into a an ongoing series. So for about the past week, I've been listening to Best Movie Year Ever by Brian Raftery, and it is ended up also picking up the book in physical form. So usually I prefer audiobooks because I can listen to them on the bus, I can listen to them while I'm walking, while I'm going to like the gym, and so on. However, if I really like a book, I'm about halfway done with the audiobook on this, I will also pick up the physical book. So got the physical book in the mail today. So this is Best Movie Year Ever by Brian Raftery, How 1999 Blew Up the Big Screen. And this is all about films that came out in 1999 and kind of changed, how films are made and so on. So there's a lot of really cool movies mentioned in here. It talks about like the production of some of these movies, the bigger implications of certain things, and so on. So just a little blurb here. So it says a behind-the-scenes look at the most groundbreaking year in cinematic history, featuring more than 100 new interviews with the actors, directors, troublemakers, and revolutionaries who helped make it happen. So right now I'm about, and again, this is movies like The Matrix, Star Wars Episode One, like The Blair Witch Project, Fight Club, Eyes Wide Shut. A lot of them are illustrated on the cover here. And then we have an entire list of the films that are being covered in this book. So again, I'm really enjoying this book. So this book, folks, I'm going to just list off the movies that it discusses. First up is the Blair Witch Project, following Go, Run Lola Run, Office Space, The Matrix, Varsity Blues, She's All That, Cruel Intentions, 10 Things I Hate About You, American Pie, Election, Rushmore, The Virgin Suicides, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, The Iron Giant, Galaxy Quest, Eyes Wide Shut, The Mummy, The Sixth Sense, The Blair Witch Project again, The Best Man, The Wood, American Beauty, Fight Club, Being John Malkovich, Three Kings and the Limey, The Insider, Boys Don't Cry, and Magnolia. And then in the back, there's just a huge amount of various references for each film, like various, like maybe might be interviews with directors or old articles that you can still read online, and so on. So, just a little detail or basics about my history with this year. So, 1999. Basically, I'm again listening to the audiobook, picked up the physical copy as well. This was my senior year of high school. I took the a second film class that year. It was the same as I took that same film class my junior year. The teacher allowed me to take it again. I passed it, of course, the first year. The her basically curriculum was a basically a handful of films that were the same from year to year. So it was like Gone with the Wind, The Graduate, Citizen Kane, and movies like that. However, about the halfway point in the semester, the students were allowed to choose a movie from a long list of films that they would give presentations on. We would watch the film in class. The students would give a presentation on their film, and then like write like an essay about what was in the film, themes of the film, and so on. So the first year I took that class, the film I got assigned was, or that we chose, was The Maltese Falcon. I believe my partner or like classmate that I was doing the project with like moved away like before that happened, so I ended up doing the project by myself. The next year we watched again the same base curriculum. We kind of watched that again, but then once the students chose their own films, it was all different. And so the film I did for it was me and two other students. We did Psycho that year. I had already seen Psycho, I think, in like middle school at some point in like another like kind of like theater or film class. So we did Psycho. Some other students showed like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Stagecoach, and so on. So that class was kind of like my first introduction to actually like looking at film and movies, more critically, looking at like underlying themes and so on. However, that being said, 1999, I didn't get to go to a whole lot of movies in the theaters. I think maybe I probably only saw movies like probably in the single digits. I don't think I saw more than 10 movies that year, at least theatrically. And that was mostly due to going to school. I was working part time at a job. I also had a high school internship at like an internet service provider, so I didn't get a whole lot of time to actually go to movies, unfortunately. So some of these movies on these lists, of course, I've seen. Some of them I have heard of and I have never seen. So we're going to be looking at some of those. Basically, movie theaters in my area, there were two. There was one in town that was a in the basement of a community college. It was a single screen theater, and it basically only it was mostly showing independent films. Over the years, it kind of evolved to show more mainstream films. I think just to stay profitable. Like a lot of people just didn't want to go see independent films, so they would be showing some of the blockbusters. Eventually, it started off showing independent films and kind of morphed into showing more of the mainstream stuff. So eventually, like before I moved away, I think like the last film I saw very I think it was Casablanca because it was like they closed to remodel. And then I remember seeing like Transformers, like Dark of the Moon there and stuff like that. So started off with more independent like art house films, and then eventually just became like mainstream. Other theater was all the way on the other side of the county, and getting to it was kind of a pain. So I would have to take a free bus that would go between the towns and the county, and that would be about an hour each way. So basically, it's an hour there, an hour back, plus like 2 hours for your movie. So it was definitely quite a time investment. I eventually started going there more and more. Eventually, once they kind of expanded the theater, because that theater started out as a twin theater with just two screens, and I think by the time 1999 rolled around, they had up to four screens, and then eventually they put in a like a six screen theater like within like a few years from there. So saw a bunch of movies at that newer theater as well. But that was basically the two major theaters in the county. Was the one where I used to live, which was just a single theater, and then the main theater on the other side of the county. After that, so basically we had a bunch of really good movies coming out that year. Some movies I've seen, some movies I haven't. For example, I with just being so busy, I was unable to unfortunately see The Matrix in the theaters. I eventually saw it in the theaters like a couple weeks ago when it was out for its 20th anniversary, but never actually got to see it. Our teacher had actually wanted to plan a field trip to see The Matrix. Our film teacher, she really loved that movie and thought it would be kind of like really good to be able to go and see that like during class. However, I think logistically, depending on like what time the theater was showing the movie, and then like that movie would have bled into our other classes that day. So our classes were about an hour and a half long. It would have maybe taken us 20 minutes to get to the theater. Like we sit through some previews, and then you have I think the Matrix is like almost like a little under 2.5 hours. So it would definitely cut into our other classes and/or our lunch period. So it was just probably logistically never going to happen anyway. But that would have been really cool to see that in that class. I eventually saw it that same year on DVD. I think it was like at Thanksgiving or something, and then watched it about a week ago once it was, or a week or two ago once it was out for its 20th anniversary, and it was still very, very awesome. So, what this brings me to now is how this ongoing series is going to unfold. So, what I'm planning on doing is I'm again reading through the book. All the movies that I just listed in here, I plan on watching and or rewatching and then doing a video, like a video review, or just giving my thoughts on the films. So some of these films I have never seen. I like, for example, Blair Witch Project. I have actually never actually got to watch that or seen it yet. I know I've seen like the classic, iconic like scenes from it and all that kind of all that kind of stuff, but I have not actually been able to watch or just never watched it. A lot of the films in this book I have never watched. So what I'm going to be doing is watching everything that's in this book. Um, whether it be on DVD, on streaming through like Amazon or Netflix, or renting it from some other source, that kind of thing. I'm going to be watching every film. I think there's like 30 or so films at least in the book, and going to be trying to watch all of them in order and how they're presented in the book, and just kind of give my thoughts, my opinions on them, like a mini review kind of thing. So some of the stuff I have on DVD. So I have Fight Club on DVD. Um, Funny story is I actually bought this. I think it was in the year 2000. Maybe it may have been 2001. I think it was 2000. So when I worked at this one store, I would take a lunch break, and I was the only one at the store generally. So I would, like lock the store up for about half an hour, take a break. I would walk a couple blocks up the road where there was a Sam Goody that sold a bunch of movies, and every week generally for I'm not gonna say a year, but at least like several months out of that year, before that the store I worked at closed, I would buy a new movie each week. So a bunch of the movies I bought there. So I picked up Fight Club at that Sam Goody. I think I got this in 2001. So I think 2001 was when I first watched it. So it may have been 2000, but I'm thinking it may have been 2001. So Fight Club is one of the movies on that list. One of the movies I didn't buy this one at Sam Goody, but this is one of the first DVDs I bought when I bought a DVD player in the year 2000 was The Matrix. Again, still holds up. I'm going to be doing a full video on The Matrix once I get to that chapter in the book, or once I watch through all the movies prior to that. But just saw this in the theater for the 20th anniversary, and it was still amazing. Maybe even better than I remember it being, just because looking at it more critically and looking at the underlying story made me enjoy it a little bit more. There was also Office Space. This is the special edition, but I think the theatrical version is still on here. It just has some deleted scenes that are like an extra. So we have Office Space, which we'll be watching. This one I've seen a bunch of times. Love it. One of my favorite movies. Um, Not to give too much away from when I do this video eventually, is I put this on like an iPod or a Creative Zen Vision M player at first, and I would actually listen to it while at work when I worked at a grocery store. It, for some reason, just listening to this movie, and they're kind of like basically, it made me not hate my job as much as I probably did. Anyway, but this basically kind of makes you like look at your job and be like, okay, your job is definitely not as bad as these guys have it here. And I did have an office job at one point too, for like a summer. Next up, we have Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I don't think I've seen this since I bought the DVD. And when did this DVD come out? Like, it's either like 2001, maybe 2000. Let me take a look. A DVD ROM thing, widescreen version. I'm not exactly sure when I bought this, because I remember buying the VHS in 2000, and this may have been 2001. But I think that was the last time I seen Star Wars Episode 1, so I'm kind of really interested in like going back, watching it again, and seeing if I like it more than I did then. I remember when I saw it opening night um, back in 1999, which was kind of cool because it was my final day of high school. Not the final day that I had to be there, but it was like basically that was my final day of classes. Was when Episode 1 was released. So basically, finished school that day. A bunch of friends from work came over. We drove down to Denver to actually see the movie, and then drove back up. I still had a couple days of high school left where we were basically just doing like graduation like rehearsals and doing a bunch of other stuff like that. None of it was schoolwork, so basically that came out on the day I finished high school. And then another movie that I bought, which I haven't actually watched. I don't know why I bought it, but that's in the books is in the book is Three Kings. Picked it up at one of the movies I got at Sam Goody. For some reason, I never got around to watching it, and now that it's in this book, I'll have a actual reason to watch this film. So a bunch of a bunch of movies in this book I have not seen, which is kind of very surprising to me, just because a lot of these films you look back at them and a lot of these are very kind of like iconic films from that period. So the first film we're going to be watching is going to be the Blair Witch Project. If you guys want to watch along, I'm going to be probably watching that within the next week or so. Um, After I finish watching it, I'll upload another one of these videos where I just discuss the movie, and we're gonna do that for each movie that is mentioned or discussed in detail within this book. So, again, this book, if you like film, if you liked the '90s, this is a very good book about just 30 or so iconic films from that year. I think The Virgin Suicides is in here, and I think it's mentioned as a being released in 2000, but I think they're counting it as a '99 film because it premiered, I think, at I think it was Cannes Film Festival that year. So wide release in 2000, but '99 for the film festival. So I think that's why that's counted here. So we'll be watching that again. We'll be watching them through either DVD or streaming services like Amazon or Netflix. Potentially renting films from YouTube if it's available there, or possibly iTunes. It just depends on where these films are available, if they're streaming or not streaming, if I can rent them or purchase them. And then, of course, with the small amount of DVDs that I have right here, we'll be watching some of the DVDs as well. So join me, if you will. I think it's going to be a fun project. Again, trying to watch through all these films. Again, I encourage you all to watch along with me. Again, first movie we'll be watching will be the Blair Witch Project. I'll probably going to be doing that within a week or so, and then I'll be uploading another video with my thoughts on that film. So that's going to do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching, and take care.